Hear that?
I hear it.
That's like the infinite note. That's like
Infinite
sustain.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. A little offspring, huh?
Yeah. Remember them?
I do. That's a good way to start. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're trying to wake us up, aren't you?
I'm trying to wake myself up.
Yeah. Well, just mainly
sleep deprived.
caffeine. You know.
I know. That's why I had to get another one before we push the record button. So,
Direct injection.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need my caffeine injected intravenous.
Exactly.
I can't even talk. Hey, welcome everyone. IoT Coffee Talk, the greatest real talk show about IoT, the most untalked about topic on the internet in the world.
In the world. And we talk about coffee, I guess, too, don't we?
Coffee. But see that's why we do bad karaoke at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Because there has to be some, I don't know if it's, you call it entertainment value, but maybe it's more like shock value, right? Shock value, entertainment. Well, they go, what the? Hey, I know that guy. What the hell is he doing? Oh my God.
Sometimes it's just to get us jump started, you know?
I know. Yeah, we do it for ourselves. We're completely selfish people.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Pretty much. We only think about ourselves. We don't care about our audience. No, not really. I mean, we do this for...
We're 100% here for you, you know? So.
You know it because we try to... this is about sharing, right?
Exactly.
We're trying to share.
Exactly.
Our early, sharing. Exactly. It's our early morning musings. You know what? How come the K-pop guys can do this, but I can't? Is it like this?
I don't know if it's like that or what. No.
Yeah. I'm Korean. I'm ethnic Korean. I should be able to do this.
You should have this automatic ability to do anything that our favorite K-pop bands can do, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Especially considering the fact that back in the day, I was actually being recruited to be part of a K-pop group.
That's exciting.
The term K-pop was coined. And here's a little bit of a, I don't know if I should even tell this story. Hey, Ryan, what's up, man?
Hey,
sure. That's the spirit, baby.
Oh,
my
God. All right, let me see that. What's that, Ryan?
The Stones. The Rolling Stones.
What is that, the 1,000 Licks shirt?
I guess. I don't know. I saw it and was like, I want this.
Yeah, dude.
All right. That's awesome, man. That's good stuff. Man.
So, Ryan, I was just about to embarrass myself. So,
perfect.
Interrupted. Yeah, so I'm going to continue to tell my embarrassing story. So, so we ended up getting trained by this. It's basically like, YG, I guess, is the entertainment group that does, basically produces all these large mega K-pop groups. But of course, back then it was just a cottage industry, right? It was like nothing. And then we ended up getting up on stage and the singer forgot all of his lyrics. We totally jacked up the dance choreo. Not that there was really a choreography back then. Thank God it never got recorded or televised, but we were in front of like at least 300, 400 people. It was just like one of the worst experiences in my personal life. It was dramatic. Anyway.
But if your lead singer had remembered the lyrics, and maybe if you had like a cool dance like NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys or whatever, or Boys to Men, you could have been the next big K-pop band. Little girls screaming. And then you'd be doing ads for Samsung with your flip phone and folding phone.
You know what? I should have just started twerking or something like that. Maybe I could have saved the show, the performance.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Oh my gosh!
There is a distinct possibility that would not have worked.
It's possible.
So hey guys, hey, you guys were at the oil and gas conference. Tell me about it, man. That's the big news in IoT this week, right? I mean, Rob, you're going to another conference. We're all going to we're starting to travel again and getting our business down, doing our business, right?
Business. So Ryan, what was your takeaway, Ryan, of our oil and gas thing?
Oh no. There's a lot of stuff being talked about. There's not a lot of stuff being understood. There's questions about edge strategies, and then they're talking about hyperscalers building it in the cloud for them, which I was like, that's over there. This is over here. There's another guy who was talking, who just told us that antennas don't matter anymore. Antennas don't matter anymore in IoT. They're not biased. They have one product with an internal antenna with no external antenna capabilities. But he said that, there's no need. All antennas are the same. And then quoted us. Yeah, and then quoted us a 10-mile range. When I dug in, right? Every time I smelled a little something, I was like, oh, there's an opportunity to ask a question. Let me see if he doubles down on it. Oh yeah, he doubles down on it.
Oh wow, yeah.
But our friends at Ignion would not be happy about this guy saying the antennas aren't important.
Yeah. Yeah. Was he like? Are you talking about some sort of software-defined radio type of thingy, or?
I don't know.
It was just you guys are. What was he? What was his?
I mean, he's in the oil and gas business, and so he's out in the oil fields, and so using some kind of IoT endpoint radio device. It might have been LoRa or something. Yes, and but it was all sealed inside, and he said that antennas were not important, and that he goes, just like you don't have an antenna sticking out of your phone. They're not.
But there is an antenna.
But he said it was about PCB thickness. It's all about PCB board thickness, is what he told us. And I'm like, what? And so he sold a very specific solution. It looked like he had one product, and it sounded like his information may have been a little biased, but. That's where I looked over at Rob and I said, okay, he said 10-mile range. I'd love to go out in the field and place these 9 miles apart and see what kind of connectivity he's getting with all the noise and the pictures he's showing.
Yeah. I think they were they tank monitoring system? Yeah. Just monitoring, the levels of oil tanks out there in the field, I like the events. I think, as Ryan pointed out, that the small expo hall where you could have had a booth had a lot of traffic the whole time. And there was a lot of missing dialogue or discussion. Like, how a lot of people think that they just jump straight to the cloud and they jump to what happens in the cloud and whatever analytics and magic, and they're out of one side of their mouth, they're talking industrial IoT. I hear people say PLC and SCADA here and there and DCS, but none of the players ever mention their ability or how to connect to a PLC, for instance, with their IoT system. It's, like a lot of people gloss over that stuff, and maybe it's just a detail, but in my experience, almost nobody knows how to do that stuff, They don't know the protocols. They don't know, Ryan knows this stuff inside and out.
Yeah.
And so it was coming, I know it was coming clear to Ryan, with his amazing platform that he's selling. I mean, he can do a better job. Maybe you should explain it to the audience, how easy it is to talk to different PLCs from using your platform versus someone who's trying to do it by hand or whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting here. I quoted one of the big companies. Data acquisition from PLCs isn't scalable, and I'm thinking I need to talk to you. because a lot of people will go with these AI ML solutions who assume that their customers already have their data in one nice place packaged up for them, right? It became very clear. And I'm thinking, no, that's not the case at all. And so a lot of companies will write these very specific drivers like a Modbus driver. And so I always picture a PLC registers as like an Excel spreadsheet. Well, if you're pulling Modbus, some PLCs can have thousands of registers who are going one by one. Is this updated? Is this updated? And that's going to add to your cycle time. But there's not just, it's not just Telit solution. There's other solutions. You literally can type in an IP address for your PLC and then exposes all that data, and then it'll just tell you when the data is changed in that register natively. So everyone's doing this custom driver integration, pulling one register at a time, adding custom code very painfully, when there's these software solutions out there that makes it very easy for you to scale these things very quickly. And so when I hear pulling data from PLCs isn't scalable, I'm thinking, hey, you guys should learn about these new things called IoT platforms. They're very great. And there's 100 of them out there, right? Everyone has an IoT platform now.
You know what's so funny? So I just, on LinkedIn, I just posted our episode 6, which was on IoT platform. I listened back on it. That's why I didn't really get much sleep last night. I listened to old IoT Coffee Talk episodes. It was so friggin' good. You know what I'm saying? I was like, and it was great to have Rick on there, Marc. I mean, some of the points you were making, I mean, everybody was making amazing points, and it was just this really well organically threaded, evolving conversation where we hit so many points. And it's funny that you say that, Ryan. It's cool, and it would have been great to have you on that episode. And so hopefully we're going to have you.
We should
have
do
an open door to join us at any time going into the future here.
We should do another platform episode, I guess.
Discussion.
You know? Yeah. But it was clear, you know, chatting with Ryan and our friend Steve Cannon, who had used to work with TwinThread, and he's doing his own thing. I think it was like First Alert AI or something like that. Anyway, it just kind of popped in our head when you notice the gaps in the messaging. And Ryan was able to quickly fill these gaps, and then pretty soon it's like, oh my God, there's a whole story here that's not being told. And it was certainly a great sales opportunity to tell that story, right? You know, because a lot of people just think magic happens and then AI happens and stuff like that, and it's just not the case at all. You know, and so part of our takeaway is, wow, we've been doing this IoT oil and gas conference since 2015, and I don't know, there's a lot of talk, but I don't know how much progress all those people are making in the oil fields and in the business, you know? You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot, you know, I don't know if they go home and they hear high-level messages, they hear messages about what happens after this perfectly formed data is analyzed and all this cool stuff. But I don't know if they have someone holding their hand or telling them the nuts and bolts of how to really, really make it work right out there in the oil field if you're you know, measuring at a tank level, you know. And so I'm like doing my whole talk on emissions, you know. It's like, you know, a lot of IoT can be environmental detection, right? We listen for gunshots, we detect CO2 in the air, we do all that kind of stuff, you know. And so my talk was, how do we get the entire oil and gas industry to net zero by 2050? Because a lot of them have now committed to that, you know, and a lot of them are on board with the ESG commitments. And so I tried to just do a talk that's like, here's a roadmap for how you would accomplish this. And it's, you know, and you know, so what is that? It's detecting leaks is really what it is in different locations. You're detecting, you know, so you might use cameras just to look for cracks in pipes or whatever, but then you're using different kinds of sensors or infrared cameras or even lasers to detect methane, CO2, and nitrous oxide are the three big ones. And then there's these other VOCs that are low-level kind of ozone type stuff. that's where all the problems coming from. And so if the oil and gas industry, there's also this notion of they call it scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. And so what that means is there's scope 1 is emissions created from your production of what you did, like drilling for oil, let's say, or fracking or whatever. And then there's scope 2, activities around either transporting it downstream, processing, all this other stuff that might happen. And then scope 3, which they could argue is out of their hands, is actually the use of that emission. And so that would be people driving cars, right? And so, obviously you could get up there and say, oh, well, scope 3, just get a Tesla or something like that. I wasn't going to do that. It's harder to, because scope 3 would be like Iberia Airlines flying around España. Well, they're burning the product that is created by the oil and gas industry, but the oil and gas, Exxon and Total and BP and everybody else, they can't necessarily control that, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I apologize if I'm getting too geeky and deep here, but I had to do a lot of research to make sure I sounded okay and intelligent. Because that's what IoT is. We have this expertise in collecting information and analyzing and doing something, but we're not exactly experts always in that domain, right? Or that vertical. And so it's always important to either do your own research to learn yourself, or most of the time you pair yourself up with a domain expert who's an expert in that industry. I don't know anything about how to monitor stuff at a chemical plant. I can help them detect stuff that's going on there, but you always need to pair up the IoT expert with the domain expert, and the two of you get together, and that's how the magic happens. Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, the way they were doing it before, Rob, they called it coupons. So they would place these things on a fence or something nearby the site, and then every few weeks they would go and grab these coupons, send it to a lab to be analyzed, and then they go, "Oh, we have a leak. You've been leaking for weeks," right? So getting that just makes sense, right? Yeah. That IoT real-time data information to have just some sensors installed versus manual stop checks, like weeks of a leak, especially on some kind of a large scale, I think that makes a big impact.
You're so right. I mean, when I was doing this research, they're following existing regulations from the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency in the United States. And yes, some of the requirements are go check for a methane leak once a quarter from this pipeline, or twice a year. And I know to all of us sitting here, that sounds insane. Yeah. Because you may have already blown up the planet before you check the next time, and so at least our takeaway, and I feel like maybe I speak for all of us doing this IoT stuff, it's like, this should be real-time, continuous, measuring, detection, all continuously. And you know what? We look at because we need to know now, and we need to have alerts now, and we need to take action now, not 3 months of methane leaks. We talked about how much worse of a greenhouse gas methane is than CO2 is. Doesn't stay in the atmosphere as long. It's like 12 years versus 300 to 1,000 years for CO2. And then the nitrous oxide is even worse than that. And I forgot how many thousands of years or whatever. It can be around for a long time. And so these things don't necessarily just disappear, and they have long-term impacts. And we're, how we talk about sometimes we're just sleepwalking into oblivion.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's time to wake up and use this IoT technology in real-time, continuous monitoring.
Yeah.
To make a difference in so many industries, but this is a big one. I mean, because you think about the energy industry, it accounts for a big chunk of the greenhouse gases, right, going into the atmosphere. Yeah. I mean, they're on the hook for a big chunk of it, and so it's a good place to focus energy on, right? To help them. Yeah. They need to want to be helped, as well.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part. There's definitely a lot of their their technology partners that are helping them in that regard. But sustainability, net zero, all this stuff, it's really daunting. I mean, it's easy for everybody to sit there and say all this ESG stuff, but you know, I think it just, the more I hear the hype about this stuff, and it's interesting to see a lot of some articles starting to emerge where people are calling out sort of this this abuse of ESG, you know, using it as some sort of marketing amplification or augmentation, brand augmentation tool for companies. To get real results, there has to be some real commitments. But even before that, a broader recognition of problems. And I think people just throw that hashtag ESG thing out there without any merit. I mean, I think there's no merit in thinking. There's no commitment to real, I guess, no real commitment to exploration how that enterprise, that organization can really contribute to ESG topics. Whether it's not all about sustainability. Sustainability is like a small element of just the environmental thing. Then you have the S, and then you have the G, right? The governance piece that everyone really gets twisted. But on that note, hey, did you see that news bit from Patagonia? The owner and his family, they donated. They placed their non-voting shares, which is like 98% of the shares, into a trust, and they're going to be donating or using the profits from Patagonia, the corporation, to fund initiatives to promote, protection of, or to address the global warming issue or climate change issue. So
powerful message.
It takes that kind of stuff. I think it's a great example. I mean, I don't know the mechanics or the dirty details of what that arrangement looks like, but I mean, hell, it's a great headline. But I don't see any other companies really doing anything that seems to be as holistic of an ESG, because that kind of hits on everything, right? With the sustainability, environmental part, all the way down to the governance piece. So
I like it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but
cool stuff. You're right. Money isn't everything, is it?
Yeah. And by the way, real quick news flash, something really odd came across my news desk here at IoT Coffee Talk.
News desk. Ooh.
Check this out. Zoom is down, so work is over for the day.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa.
Wow.
I don't even know how we're on right now.
Yeah. If it's working.
I had some trouble today.
Yeah, you did, but you're still on. But maybe we made it just in time before their authentication servers went down. But so next week I'm going to hang out with Marc
in Amsterdam.
Fun, in Amsterdam for
the Things Conference.
Yeah, Things Conference, and we're going to be up on stage.
What are you guys going to bring your guitar?
You know what? It depends. I have to find out from customs whether or not I can bring it back once I take it over.
It might be easier to just find one in Amsterdam.
Yeah, maybe I'll just buy like a $200 guitar,
or borrow somebody's.
Yeah, and I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
give it to you. And then
you're right.
We can jam.
I'd hate for it to get damaged traveling, on a plane. So that's exciting. So what are you guys going to talk about? You're just going to make it up.
What are we going to talk about, Marc?
Helium, no? No, sorry.
Neither of them.
No, we're going to talk about, I don't know, about how LoRa can help on all of these use cases, right?
Really?
I'm looking forward to see, the vibe of the event, actually. Never been there, so I think it's going to be super cool. Binka told me that, they sold too many tickets.
Oh,
yeah, that's great.
It's
That's
going to
great.
be...
That's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
I have another event in the same next week, or I would have come. It was just too much stuff going on. I mean, we're in event season, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
we are. It's going to get bonkers. I'm pretty much traveling every week for the next 2-3 months
until COVID. Yeah, just pop up again. Yeah,
no,
everyone traveling.
Yeah, well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But yeah,
you know what? I'm excited about your event there, the LoRa thing. Because the more I thought about it, when I walked through use cases for the oil and gas people upstream, where they're drilling, fracking, tar sands in Canada, pipelines, storage, refining, transport with trucks, transport with trains, transport with super tankers. In a lot of those scenarios, I think we could use LoRa to help in a low cost way.
Yeah.
Because right now, a lot of those remote locations, their only option has been in the past has been satellite, which has always been very expensive. I know it's getting cheaper, but it's always been the most expensive way to transmit data was satellite. And so it made it tough, which is why, like Ryan's talking about, we'll just wait for a few weeks and get a coupon off the fence to tell you something bad happened. It's funny, like what's some kind of litmus paper or something? It turned green or purple. That means everyone within a 5-mile radius is already dead.
Yeah, right.
That would be a great name for a company. Connected coupon.
Connected coupon.
Yeah.
I like that. Oil and gas, you got to have your IoT specific use case and application, right?
Oh my God.
The little industry term.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude, we're like a treasure trove for marketing people in the IoT industry. Oh my God.
I think what I want to see is I want to see Marc dressed up in cowboy boots and a hat, and he shows up out in West Texas to the oil fields.
He would scare people.
And says,
in a horse.
On a horse.
On a horse, yes.
On a horse.
That's cruelty to animals, man.
But he's going to show up like a big badass that he is. He's like, I am delivering the solution to your problem. Here are these different types of sensors we're going to use to measure emissions in real time. Here's how LoRa gets going. And we're going to start setting this stuff up right now. And we're going to make it happen,
Actually, one of the workshops in Amsterdam, I'm showing these, which is a Raspberry Pi, with a LoRa concentrator. But actually, what we are going to show is that in one click, you can have all the LoRa stack here. You can have the packet forwarder to get LoRa packets and then send these packets to another service running on the device, which is the LoRa network server. With the databases, etc. So you can have a private LoRaWAN network in just this device and deploy it in one click.
That's a really good story. I want to see that's awesome.
You don't need like a super tech device or anything expensive. Just for less than $200, you can have it and give this 10-mile, 5-mile, etc., depending on your geography of coverage. To your farm or whatever, oil camp, whatever you are.
Could you explain what the network server does? Is that the translator or?
Yeah, indeed. So the packet, basically what you see here, it's the LoRa concentrator. So it gets radio messages that are being sent in the LoRa radio configuration and just converts them into into internet packages. And then the LoRa network server, what it does is it receives these messages coming from the LoRa radio that has been forwarded by the package forwarder and just check if that device belongs to an application registered on that LoRa network server or in that network. And if it's from a device registered to any application that belongs to that LoRa network server, it just forwards the data to that application. There, you can decide if you want to just forward this data to your database, to your local service. You want to convert Celsius degrees into Fahrenheit, or do the mathematical functions that you need there on the LoRa network.
Because I know a lot of times,
sorry.
I just know a lot of times people don't understand how they convert the data from LoRa to just normal TCP/IP, HTTP, JSON, whatever.
In the past, the packet forwarder used to work with UDP, but now the basic station, which is the latest version, it's running with WebSockets. And something interesting that I'm going to showcase as well on that workshop is that we are using something that we call MING, MING. That it's a new. I don't know if you remember, if you were web developers at the beginning, there was this kind of open source stack called LAMP, LAMP. So Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. So it was like, at the beginning of the web development, it was a bit of chaos. So some people just open source bottom up this LAMP framework. So in just one click, you could have all the tools that you needed just to create a website and just deploy it on the internet. So with an ambassador from Belena, we are working on this MING concept, which is as well something that you can deploy in one click on a single board computer. And you have MQTT in FlexDB, which is a database, Node-RED, and Grafana, which is like a to visualize data. So actually here on this device, I have the packet forwarder, the LoRa network server, but I also have MQTT, an MQTT broker to just to do some publish and subscription of data. I have InfluxDB, which is a database for time series, etc. for IoT devices. I have Node-RED, which is like a no-code system just to visually program the workflow of how your data goes from input to output and functions that you want to apply, and then you can send it to the InfluxDB database, and that will be visualized to Grafana. So the goal as well is to reduce friction. And if anyone, like on the oil industry, as you were explaining before, if anyone wants to get introduced into the IoT, they only need to use MING stack and start from there.
I love it.
Really interesting.
I love it. That is awesome. The MING stack. That's so cool. Yeah. And you're right. That's what we need is reducing friction.
Yeah.
Like LAMP was in the 90s, right? Yeah. So when it appeared, it just reduced friction to a lot of people. As me, I was just starting to learn how to make a website. So LAMP, stack was there just to make it happen in a really easy way.
Yeah. How many different? So with the Raspberry Pi based concentrator, how many different connections can it handle from different endpoints out in the field? Or is it?
You mean sensors?
Yeah, sensors that are using LoRa.
I'm not sure. I need to check that. But few hundreds for sure. You need to check as well, depending on the country, what are the regulations for the radio signals, etc. As it's using an open band of the radio spectrum. But I'm not sure. I need to check that. But there shouldn't be any problem. I haven't seen it.
Because I always hear about the different LoRa gateways, and they have different number of channels or something like that.
They have. This has 8 channels.
Okay.
But I don't know. We would need to do some mathematics to check how many messages we can receive for each channel, etc. But
because when you show up on your horse in West Texas, you're going to survey the area to see how big area and how many LoRa sensors are going to be out there, and then how many, I guess, gateways and network servers, concentrators you will need to get that data.
Have in mind that LoRa is not used for real-time communication.
Right.
So usually, it's for low power devices. So that means that they send data every hour, every day, maybe. So if you have devices that send data every day and they are well configured, you can have thousands of devices.
Yeah, which is better
data
than
once per day.
Better than grabbing a purple coupon off a fence every 3 months.
for the paper.
Can you imagine being the guy where it's your girl or woman, guy or girl, driving around and you look at the coupons on the fence, like, I'm just going to keep driving on this one. You see the colors, you're like, nope.
Nope.
We need someone in a Homer Simpson hazmat suit to go grab those ones.
That's right. The hazmat suit.
Astronauts out there.
But that's such a good point. Even if it was just once a day, that's like 1,000 times better than what they're doing now.
Yeah.
But you're right. You could do it once an hour, and that's still not going to overwhelm any concentrators.
Oh, yeah.
It's not very much. So then from your Raspberry Pi, do you then create a backhaul network of some kind off of that?
No, this can work offline if you want.
Okay. So like edge computing?
No.
But this is the edge computing.
Right. From you're talking about node to node, right?
Well, I'm just talking
about kind of like IAB.
I'm just talking about once the stuff comes to his device, you look on the other part of the Raspberry Pi and you see those Ethernet ports and it's got Wi-Fi. Sometimes you might use those as sometimes a gateway is kind of like a data router, and it may go on to, like, a big corporation may have a cloud that they're using that they want that data to go to afterwards. I bet you're right. I guess to your point, you're putting the whole stack, so you could do full edge computing there. And then it can backhaul. Like, a lot of times we'll hear, like we'll talk to Winky or whatever, and he talks about, maybe we'll use LTE-M as a backhaul to get to another destination.
Indeed. And look at this. I have here as well another. This is the Velena Fin, which is like a Raspberry Pi compute module carrier board. And I have as well another LoRa concentrator, the latest one, which is a rack. I don't know the number, 5146. And here I have a Simcom cellular modem with a SIM card.
Zero. Is it on the bottom there?
Second.
Is that a Raspberry Pi Zero board?
No, this is a Compute Module 3. So that this is just I just plug this here, and this is like a Raspberry Pi 3. Okay. It looks like a Pi Zero, but it's not. So it's called a Compute Module. So what Raspberry Pi was trying to do is that you can create a carrier board that does whatever you need without the need to do like a hat or something like that. In this case, a Velena Fin is like a more industrial, more robust device than a Pi 3. And then I have, like cellular connectivity, so you can have a backhaul connection, or you can decide just to connect there on a local network. And then even with no internet, but if your device has an IP address from a mobile phone, you can access to the Node-RED or to the Grafana locally without having like connectivity. So you can have these on like a real private LoRa network, LoRaWAN network, plus some edge computing with all the Node-RED transformations and everything. And if you want like offline, but of course it's recommended like to have like a Wi-Fi gateway that, or even we could like make that the Raspberry Pi put another service that generates like a Wi-Fi hotspot and just connect to it and just navigate through the services.
Okay.
There.
I feel like a business is forming here, or a whole end-to-end solution. Because Ryan, doesn't this sound like he just created a local Grafana HMI, basically?
Yeah, data visualization.
Yeah,
the Node-RED with the no to low code. Programming for your logic on the edge.
Yeah. I think that's very powerful, Marc.
Where did he go? Man. He disappeared.
I think someone who was competing against his idea just took him out.
So when he comes back on, I mean, with all this talk about him dressing up like a cowboy and going to Texas and, checking out these coupons and trying to figure out how to buy a LoRa solution.
I feel like we're putting a story together here right now.
Yeah, but
we've got bits and pieces all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? Another thing happened with Ryan and I at this event. Our friend Steve Cannon He's doing his own thing. And he just like showed up at the port of Lake Charles with the Advantech device monitoring stuff. And he's just like, I'll hook it up right now. And it's going to cost you $99. And they're like, okay. And they try it and it just worked. And I don't know if I don't know if I had an epiphany or what, but I was like, or people like me have been pushing and selling these platforms, whether they're in the cloud or wherever, and analytics. And instead, maybe we should be just showing up with a customer with the device and the value, because in fact, he said, stop just saying we're going to add value. Remember, he's like, what's the most pain point you have here at this port? And it's like, oh, it's this. And he goes, boom, here's the device. I've got connectivity. He creates he's got some kind of cellular halo around his vehicle. He's like, let's go do it. He goes, let's go do it right now. And they got it going right there. And instead of saying, oh, this is going to be some big subscription or whatever, he's like, $99, we'll get this going, whatever. We'll try it out. And it worked. And they were just like, holy crap.
It's magic.
Maybe we should be leading. Maybe we should be showing up with our toolkit with the devices that solve the problem. I know this sounds obvious to probably a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me, but if we showed up with the devices, Ryan knows how to talk to all those registers easily if we need to, because I know a lot of those systems out there, you've got to talk to PLCs. I think there's some magic here. I think we now, with helping with Balena and the rack wireless on a Raspberry Pi to create a concentrator, with Grafana, I think we created a new HMI, a low-cost HMI that could be locally, and then we can daisy chain and route over cellular or Ethernet, MPLS, fiber, wherever, because ultimately you're doing that LoRa stuff in an area where you don't have coverage, or you don't want to pay for cellular, maybe, because it's too costly to have every single sensor using cellular. But it's okay to have your gateway or whatever using cellular as a backhaul, and then have hundreds or thousands of sensors that are on LoRa.
So do you guys think, so when you hear people talk about IoT technologies, I mean, there's a lot of tribalism. I mean, a lot of people talk a good game about interoperability and platforms and all this stuff, but it seems like when people get into a dialogue about solutioning, there's always these camps that they fall into and things, there's a lot of siloed philosophies on how you solve problems. But it's evident to me that in order to solve a lot of these problems that IoT is proposing to solve for customers or end users, is that you're going to be dealing with heterogeneous technology solutions, right? And topologies, architectures. I think not having that kind of acknowledgement gets away from actually solutioning stuff, right? Because if you're in the LoRa camp, you don't want to think about XYZ alternative connectivity and technologies, right? You want to figure out how to push and expand the scope of what LoRa does within the solution set. But that kind of thinking also limits possibilities, because you're not exploring how all these other maybe competing technologies or complementary that could be possibly complementary in a certain situation could enable you to actually create an opportunity for your own technology. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's like those AI analytics ML companies, right? As a perfect example. We partner with a lot of those. I call it the piping and the plumbing. They make money either per data point that they process or however their business model is. But if they're not getting a continuous stream of data, they can't get any revenue. Right? And so they go to these factories and they go to these places and they say, hey, and the factories say, we love this. We want this, right? And then they go, we don't know how to get the data to you. So the faster that they can partner with companies that are kind of adjacent or maybe in a different part of that solution, now these two companies team up and it's like, we're add in these connections as fast as possible. They're processing the data as fast as possible. And then the end user is getting a quickly deployed solution, but they're just sitting there and like, okay, we know, give us all your data in an Excel spreadsheet. It's like, no, there's already solutions. Like, that's not IoT. There's already solutions out there that will manually process your data for you in chunks. You lose that whole value there. But I love guys like Steve, because my first experience was with him. He came up to us at the conference, pulled sensors out of his pocket. He's like, you got to check this out. I was like, oh, I'm going to like this guy. I love guys that will sit there, pull sensors out of their pocket, awesome. Like, check this out. And my eyes immediately got there, like, oh, okay, I'm interested. That's in front of me. There's something real, you know?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, okay. So going back to the point I was going to make is that with all this talk about, Marc, you strolling into town in Texas in a cowboy outfit on a horse, it begs the burning question, have you ever ridden on a horse before? And the second question is, did the horse survive?
Yeah, of course, as far as I know. Yeah, really? You don't need to pay any insurance. I don't know how you do, no? If you rent a car and you destroy the car, probably it's the same, right?
Horse insurance.
I mean, I don't, maybe, the audience doesn't realize how tall you are and how big you are. You're a big dude, And so, I don't know.
Big horses out there.
Last time, I think that was last time in Argentina. I was in Patagonia by horse, like 8 hours, something like that. But I realized there that the horses there are smaller than the horses that I used to.
Yeah.
I would try it in the US. Maybe, if you invite me, I'm happy to appear.
Yeah. Okay, and then ride
on my Stetson in the oil camp.
Exactly.
We'll get a Clydesdale. We'll get a big Budweiser Clydesdale.
There you go. I mean, there you know.
Hey, you know what? The original cowboys in Texas were Spanish. It's true. True. I mean, the history of our country, the history of Texas, they were Spanish. They were the original cowboys, and that grew from there. And they were wearing the hats for a reason. The sun. You're out there all day on your horse.
Vaqueros.
Yeah.
Isn't it vaqueros?
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right, or did I hack it up?
Yeah. I mean, cow in Spanish is vaca. So vaqueros.
Vaqueros. Yeah.
I know Spanish.
So we're bringing cultures together here today on IoT Coffee Talk.
So next week, let's do, because, maybe folks don't understand that, Marc jumps on every, whenever he can, and onto a English language podcast. So maybe one of these days we can do it all in Spanish and see how we fare and how long that episode actually can run for.
See?
No.
Okay.
Sí o no. Sí.
¿Verdad?
Frito.
Así.
No comprendo español.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what though? This has been a very powerful episode for me, because I do feel like we talked about a real world problem and we pieced together stuff from everybody here, and I think we came up with a solution, and we could just show up on horses in West Texas and save the planet. Because if most of the emissions, or a high percentage of the emissions that are causing problems on the planet, come from the oil and gas industry, then we can focus on that. And we got the devices, and Marc's got this new concentrator with the MING stack and an HMI. Ryan's talking to those registers dynamically, and he's not polling PLCs. Don't people know how bad it is to poll machines? Those machines have other tasks besides you querying them 1,000 times a minute. They're trying to do their job, and when you're polling them all the time, and as I said to Ryan, I go, especially when you talked about the ones where it looks like it's searching every single register on the whole PLC to find the answer. That reminds me, in SQL with databases, that's like a table scan when you don't have good indexes, right? That's what it is. And it hurts your server. And so it's hurting those PLCs. It's preventing them to do their actual job, which is not serving you, but working with those machines,
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I'm feeling a lot of love here, guys.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm excited to learn all about the MING stack and what you're going to show at the event next week, guys. With all the stuff you got, and it looks, and Balena makes everything so much simpler.
Yeah.
Just makes it easy, because otherwise we're writing a lot of code, we're configuring lots of things on bare metal. So it's all about getting rid of friction.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's going to be fun hanging out with developers, hanging out with Marc, hanging out with the crew at Things Industries. And,
that's so cool.
A lot of faces, a lot of interesting conversations, no doubt. I'm looking forward to learning from everyone. It's going to be awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, we're putting on my group up in Washington State. We have the Washington State IoT Council that was originally created, rolls up to the governor and works with the state of Washington. So we've had that for a long, long time. And so we do conferences. And so we've got a conference next week that we're going to have at the T-Mobile created a new kind of tech 5G hub place that's looks like a giant maker place, and it's pretty cool. So it's in Bellevue, and so anyway, we're having our conference they're hosting it at their place there, and so I've been to some events there already, and they have a good big stage and everything where they can do stuff like that. So
and don't forget that next week in New York City there is the Helium House where they are going to explain next steps on Helium.
Wow.
Yeah. It's by
the way.
Yeah. Happy what is it? Ethereum merge day.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Let me see something really quick.
Is my Ethereum price going up or down today?
Oh wow. Ethereum is down 6.6% today, and Bitcoin is down 2%.
And Google shares.
It's the wrong way.
And Google shares. Alphabet shares.
Look at this, uncorrelated comment there. Google's down 1.7%. So
the Dow is down 144 points right now. I mean, this week has been just a horrible week because of the bad inflation numbers came out again.
Yeah.
And so the whole market is certainly down this week in a big way.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think it's anyone's. It's just it's a combination of situation and policy. That's it.
Sure.
And some of it, I think most of us would agree with the premise of the policy. So, inflation is the price you pay. You just have to deal with it. And then rising interest rates. I mean, I quite honestly think it has a distilling, cleansing effect. So there's a good side to it. There's obviously a painful side. So, but
that's how you fight inflation, is with higher interest rates. It is.
Well, sort of. I mean, I think
they did it in the 70s and early 80s because inflation, people probably don't remember how bad it was.
Yeah.
And so interest rates were like 14, 15% back then.
Yeah. Well, mortgage rates hit 6%. So they've doubled.
Which is historically still normal.
Yeah, it's normal. But that's the crazy thing, right?
We've been living in La La Land for the last
La La Land.
Yeah.
A 3% mortgage interest rate. Yeah. That's crazy.
That's not historically normal. That's historically just almost giving away money for free.
It's free money.
Which also allowed people to buy more expensive houses than they normally would be able to afford.
Right.
Yeah.
Leverage capital and do all the stuff that now that the interest rates have, it's a really interesting comment. When people say that the Fed is working against the market, it's like
they're just fighting inflation.
Supposed to mean now. Yeah, it's such it's a way of demonizing that policy. When it's like, no, wait a minute, maybe you guys have been spending like drunken sailors, investing in largely horrible companies, evidently, because a lot of these companies that have been heavily hyped, what are their valuations, right? They're in the toilet. There, it has I don't think the higher interest rates is all a bad thing. I think it keeps our markets honest, and I don't think the markets have been honest because, like what we talked about last week, Rob, companies that are based on fluff and nonsense, they don't survive when money costs money.
And not to correlate fluff and nonsense, but there was some bad news came out yesterday about Twilio. Was laying off about 11%
that's like
of their workforce.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff happening, right? And a lot of those narratives just completely imploding. But those are the things that, I don't know. It's almost like we have to bring those things to light, remind people, because like what we talked about maybe 3 episodes ago, we should really flatten the curve because this is all about competitiveness, efficient allocation and use of capital. And if we keep doing these kind of like wacky, speculative investments, we're not going to be able to beat China. Sorry.
There you go again, Mr. China.
Well, no, it's competition, right? We just can't keep drinking Kool-Aid and think that we're going to win global competition.
Now, it's obviously easier for the U.S. government to service its $31 trillion in debt with lower interest rates, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's printing money like there's no tomorrow. So it's a balance of La La Land and paying with funny money to pay down crazy debt,
Yeah, but, at some point you have to make a decision and start solving problems, right? And, coming up with something balanced. Right now, I don't know. It's hard to tell what we're really doing.
Our economy is an illusion.
Well,
it's pretending to be capitalism, but actually we just print money and pay for things. Whenever you hear someone say, "Oh man, that's going to come out of the taxpayers' pockets to pay for that," or it's like, no, it's not. They're just printing the money. There actually isn't enough money from the taxpayers to pay for the stuff that's being spent right now. It's not even close.
Yeah, you're right. We
just print it.
We pay for it at the register in the form of higher prices. Yeah, that's what's happening now. So at some point, inflation, you can't. Eventually you have to pay off the credit card, and this is part of time to pay the credit card. You're being forced to, right, by circumstance and policy. So. It's going to be tough, but hey, at some point we got to go through the pain and then get back to
get back to the party.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Wow, what a weird way to end the episode.
Maybe you can just chop off that ending there because it's a downer. But
when did we ever chop off anything because it was a downer?
Oh, that's a good point. You know what? This was actually a great episode. It probably do need to wrap up. It was a great episode. We talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about big problems with emissions. We talked about LoRa. We talked about PLCs and what Ryan can do. We talked about showing up with devices and answers to questions and problems to solve right away instead of ambiguous. We're going to add value with our platform or our AI, So I think this is good stuff.
Keep going. Just close out.
I'm excited about the MING stack. And you know what? You can learn more by tuning in to IoT Coffee Talk at iotcoffeetalk.com. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. You can get us everywhere. And I'm excited to hear what comes out of the event next week in Amsterdam. It's going to be some great stuff. Marc's doing some amazing stuff with Belena and these concentrators. This is great, man. A new kind of HMI. I love it. Edge computing on a Pi with LoRa. Boom.
Amazing.
So we will see you on the other side, folks. Keep it real.
I'm going to go take a nap now.
All right.
Cheers.